Hey guys, tonight we are venturing far, far north, beyond the tundra, past the last scrubby tree, into a realm ruled by wind, snow, and silence. The air stings your cheeks. Your boots crunch over packed ice. The sky is a pale gray sheet, and somewhere behind you, the sun has dipped low, but not gone, not really. It just hovers, sleepy, never fully committing to night or day. You trudge across a frozen landscape that seems empty at first glance, but you soon notice tiny details, a curving trail of sled marks, the shimmer of fish scales discarded near a hole in the ice, a thin ribbon of smoke twisting into the sky. And then you see it. A mound. Not just any snowy lump, but an igloo. A real one. Handmade. Functional. Surprisingly architectural, considering it was built using what most people in warmer climates use for snowball fights and cancelled school days. And let's be honest, you probably wouldn't last one night out here, not even with your double-insulated parka, those overpriced thermal socks, and the emergency protein bar you crushed in your coat pocket back in hour one. The people who live here, though. They've figured out how to turn snow, that cold, fluffy, entirely unpromising substance, into homes warmer than some urban apartments in February. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from tonight? And what time is it by you? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You approach the igloo with a hint of hesitation. Not because it looks unstable, it doesn't. In fact, it's almost elegant. Its shape is perfectly domed, like someone sliced a white pearl in half and set it gently on the ice. The surface is smooth in some places, blocky in others, and every now and then a faint shimmer of ice crystals catches the waning light. There's a small, low tunnel leading inward. And above it? Nothing but curves and calm. You duck through the entryway, and it's like entering a whisper. The wind is instantly gone. The world outside vanishes, muffled behind the thick, layered snow walls. Inside, there's warmth, not tropical warmth, of course. Not spa warmth. But certainly something survivable. The temperature feels like late autumn, not midwinter. Enough to make you loosen your scarf and tug down your hood. A woman glances up from where she's ladling a thick, oily soup into a carved wooden bowl. She smiles, says nothing. Her eyes say it all, welcome. Don't touch anything that looks delicate. And if you knock over the oil lamp, we all freeze. The interior smells faintly of fat, seal oil mostly, maybe a bit of fish, and there's a surprising hint of wood smoke even though no fire burns. Turns out, driftwood occasionally washes up on shore, and the occasional indoor fire can happen. If you're brave. But mostly, it's all about the lamps. Your boots crunch slightly as you shift your weight. The floor beneath your feet is snow, but tamped down and smooth, almost polished by use. You notice a raised platform toward the back of the room, covered in hides. That, you quickly realize, is the sleeping area. One surface, shared by all, elevated to trap warmth and keep away from the cold sink below. More on that later. The ceiling curves overhead, a perfect dome of translucent snow blocks, cut and angled so precisely you can't help but imagine some ancient Inuit architect with a frosty blueprint and a very serious expression. Historians still argue whether early Inuit communities developed their construction techniques independently or through contact with other Arctic peoples, but either way, the design holds up. Literally. You move slowly, aware of every breath. The walls don't echo, but they absorb. Sound is soft in here, like talking through mittens. Every movement feels amplified, yet hushes quickly. You've stepped not just into a shelter, but into a different rhythm of life. One paced by seasons, shaped by necessity, and fine-tuned over thousands of years. And here's a quirky detail that catches your attention right away: there's no door. The entrance tunnel you crawled through actually dips slightly before rising into the main space, like a snowy bathtub siphon. Why? Because cold air sinks, and this U-shaped design lets frigid air collect at the tunnel's lowest point, keeping it out of the living space. Ingenious. Also, it explains why that brief crawl felt like navigating a chilly letter you made of ice. The structure itself was probably built in under 2 hours, maybe even one, if the builder was experienced and had a decent snow saw. You try to picture yourself building one. You imagine stacking the blocks wrong, knocking them over with your elbow, crying a little, and then giving up to go nap under a tarp. That's okay. Most of us would. What's even more impressive is how the snow used for these homes isn't just any snow. It needs to be hard-packed, wind-blown, and slightly granular, what builders call sintered snow. Try building with powdery stuff and you'll end up with a collapsed igloo and a story you'll never live down. They even listen for a certain sound when cutting blocks, like slicing through a styrofoam cake. A strange blend of crunch and squish. One man, you're told, can build a winter igloo alone in a couple of hours with the right tools. But most families do it together, with children helping shape blocks and women preparing hides and supplies for the inside. The outer walls are often thicker toward the base, tapering upward, keeping heat inside and resisting collapse. You can't help but feel a little in awe. This isn't just survival, it's elegance, shaped from snow and logic. A young boy sits near the entry tunnel now, poking at the snow with a carved bone stick. He's trying to see if any of the blocks need patching. Even he knows what's at stake. And while the igloo is meant to be temporary, a seasonal structure, it's never treated casually. In the Arctic, bad design means a very quick freeze. Some scholars still debate whether these snow homes evolved strictly from necessity or also as expressions of artistry and spiritual belief. The way light filters through the walls, the ceremonial placement of sleeping areas, the storytelling that unfolds under these domes, none of it feels accidental, and tonight, here you are. In the hush. In the glow. In the warmth of snow. You barely have time to settle your stiff legs before the family's matriarch gestures for you to follow deeper inside. The dome expands just enough to hold a small group of people, their bodies huddled comfortably on layered furs and woven mats. The ambient glow from a low stone lamp flickers softly against the curved walls, casting long, dancing shadows that remind you of watching campfire stories, only here, the flames are replaced by a warm pool of seal oil. Your eyes adjust to the gentle light, and you notice details you hadn't seen before: the delicate carvings on bone utensils, the subtle arrangement of tools by the entrance, and the faint scent of dried fish mingling with the ever-present aroma of blubber. It's a place that smells like survival, but also like home. Despite the chill you felt outside, inside this snow palace, there's a surprising coziness that sneaks into your bones. The packed snow blocks absorb the warmth generated by the inhabitants, while the dome shape encourages heat to circulate rather than escape. You can't help but admire the natural insulation provided by the snow, which retains body heat much better than most modern materials. Oddly enough, snow acts like a thermal blanket, trapping tiny pockets of air that keep the cold firmly locked out. You're handed a bowl of thick, oily soup made from seal meat and roots. The taste is unfamiliar, yet comforting, earthy and rich. Like the land itself condensed into one spoonful. It's a reminder that these homes are not only architectural marvels but centers of community, where food, warmth, and stories come together. As you sip slowly, the matriarch begins a quiet tale about the origins of igloos, explaining that these domed homes have been part of Inuit life for centuries. They weren't just shelters, they were symbols of resilience, designed to withstand some of the harshest conditions on the planet. You wonder if modern architects could learn something here. After all, who needs heating bills when your walls are made of snow? A curious fact surfaces: some igloos were built with a small hole in the roof to allow smoke from lamps or small fires to escape, but it also let in the softest, most ethereal moonlight, turning the interior into a glowing cocoon of white. It's almost magical, this interplay of light and shadow. Historians still argue whether this feature was mainly practical or held spiritual significance, perhaps inviting the moon's protection during long, dark winters. You notice a child curled up near the sleeping platform, wrapped in thick furs and breathing softly. The whole scene feels oddly serene, like time is folding inward here beneath the snow dome. The hum of the Arctic wind outside fades to a distant murmur, replaced by the gentle crackle of the seal oil lamp and the quiet companionship of shared shelter. The igloo's design reveals more than just survival strategy, it tells a story of intimate human connection with nature. The builders don't fight the environment, they work with it. Coaxing snow into a fortress that feels alive, almost breathing, and just as you start to feel you might actually relax here, the matriarch offers a gentle warning: you probably won't survive the first night out here without knowing the rhythms of the land and the snow. It's a reminder that these spaces, while comforting, demand respect and knowledge, an age-old dance between human ingenuity and the Arctic's relentless cold. The first thing you notice as you step outside again is the absolute stillness, the kind of silence that feels like a soft blanket wrapped around you. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the muffled hush of snow stretching endlessly in all directions. This quiet is part of the Inuit experience, one that shapes how they build and live in their snowy homes. Outside the igloo, you spot the carefully arranged entrance tunnel, a low, narrow passage that snakes away from the main dome. It's barely taller than your waist, forcing you to stoop as you enter. This clever design isn't just a quirky architectural choice, it serves a crucial purpose. By forcing cold air to settle in the tunnel rather than flowing straight into the living space, it creates a natural barrier against the harsh Arctic winds. Think of it as the igloo's version of a draft stopper, but far more elegant and time-tested. You watch as the family members crawl in and out, each accustomed to the cramped entrance, a small ritual repeated daily with no complaints. It's oddly intimate, this slow shuffle through the narrow passage, like a secret handshake with the snow itself. You might find it inconvenient, but here it's a small price to pay for warmth and shelter. Interestingly, the entrance tunnel also serves as a handy storage nook. The Inuit stash their hunting gear, sled ropes, and spare furs there, keeping the main living area tidy and free from clutter. You chuckle quietly, imagining how modern minimalists might envy such a natural organizational hack. Historians still argue whether this dual purpose of the entrance was a happy accident or a carefully refined tradition passed down through countless generations. Turning your gaze back to the igloo's walls, you marvel at the tightly packed snow blocks. These aren't just any snow chunks, they're carefully cut from densely packed, wind-hardened snow that's more like ice than fluffy powder. The blocks fit together so snugly that the walls seem almost seamless. You run your gloved hand along the surface, feeling the faint warmth seeping through from inside. It's a gentle reminder that snow can be an excellent insulator, far better than you might expect. You overhear a conversation about how the blocks are sometimes shaped with slight inward slopes, so the igloo curves inward at the top, forming a self-supporting dome. This design distributes weight evenly, preventing collapse even under heavy snow loads. You imagine the patience and skill it takes to carve each block just right, a craft that's part science, part art. A quirky tidbit catches your attention. Some Inuit builders would intentionally leave tiny gaps between blocks, allowing fresh air to circulate gently inside. This subtle ventilation prevents the buildup of carbon dioxide from lamps and breathing, making the igloo's atmosphere surprisingly breathable. It's like the structure itself is alive, quietly adjusting to the needs of its inhabitants. You can't help but appreciate the quiet genius behind this home. Every curve, every block, every tunnel is a note in a long, hushed symphony of survival and comfort. It's as if the igloo whispers stories of ice and snow, patience and precision, to anyone willing to listen. Before you turn to move on, you glance at the horizon. The sun barely schemes the edge of the sky, casting a pale blue light that fades quickly into twilight. The cold is creeping back, but inside that snow dome, you remember the warmth waiting for you, the glow of seal oil lamps, the softness of layered furs, and the gentle hum of community sheltered by snow. As the Arctic day edges toward dusk, you find yourself tracing the daily rhythm of igloo life, which is as much about managing comfort as it is about survival. The family moves with slow purpose, each gesture a quiet dance choreographed by centuries of tradition and necessity. You watch the careful layering of clothing, skin against skin, fur against fur, designed to trap warmth without weighing down movement. One of the most fascinating details emerges as you observe their sleeping arrangements. Instead of sprawling out, each person curls up on raised platforms lined with animal skins. These aren't just beds, they're carefully constructed thermal islands, elevated above the cold snow floor. They keep bodies away from the chill, while the thick pelts beneath provide extra insulation. You wonder if you've ever been so cozy in a bed, or if your modern mattress is just a distant relative of these ancient creations. A mainstream fact about Inuit homes is that they often use body heat to help maintain a stable interior temperature. The small space means that just a handful of people can make the whole igloo surprisingly warm, enough to melt a thin layer of ice on the inside walls, which ironically forms a waterproof glaze. You can almost hear the faint drip of melting snow, a natural humidifier in the otherwise dry Arctic air. Among the many daily rituals, the preparation and lighting of seal oil lamps, called kullik, stand out. These shallow stone lamps burn steadily, providing light and a small but vital source of heat. You notice how the flickering flame casts soft, warm shadows that play across the curved walls, turning the snow into a gentle canvas of light and shadow. These lamps are so central that the Inuit often consider them symbolic of life itself. Without them, the deep Arctic nights would be unbearably cold and dark. You learn a quirky tidbit about kullik fuel. Before seal oil became the standard, some communities experimented with whale blubber or even fish oil, though these sources were less efficient or more odorous. There's a delicate balance between function and comfort in these choices, something you might take for granted with your modern electric lamps. Historians still argue whether the kullik's design was entirely practical or if it also held spiritual meaning, with some suggesting that the flame represented a connection to the ancestors or the spirits of the land. This blend of utility and belief hints at a world where survival and spirituality are woven together seamlessly, as you settle deeper into this snowy sanctuary's rhythm. You start to notice how every object and action is part of an intricate system, one that balances warmth, light, and community. The quiet flicker of the kullik, the soft murmur of voices, and the occasional scrape of tools against snow all blend into a calming soundtrack that feels tailor-made for winding down. You can't help but smile at the thought. In the heart of one of the coldest places on Earth, people have crafted a home that's surprisingly cozy, warm, and filled with life. And yet, there's a quiet humility in this space. a reminder that the land is always the true master here. As you sink further into the quiet comfort of the igloo, your attention turns to the ways the Inuit manage daily chores inside their snowy home. Water, for example, isn't just a tap away, it's a precious resource carefully gathered and melted from snow. You watch as the family gently scoops fresh snow into a shallow bowl placed near the kulak lamp. The warmth from the flames slowly melts the snow into water, a quiet alchemy that sustains life in this frozen landscape. This method of water collection is surprisingly efficient, considering the environment. The melted water is used sparingly, primarily for drinking and cooking, while the snow itself can serve as a cooling agent for freshly caught fish or meat. You imagine how different this is from the running faucets and water heaters of your modern life, and you can't help but admire the patience required for such a slow process. A mainstream fact about Inuit water use is that they often drank snow directly in emergencies, but this was discouraged since eating cold snow could lower body temperature dangerously. Instead, the slow melting process ensured the water was safe and warm enough to help maintain core heat. One quirky tidbit you discover is that some Inuit communities would use special wooden spoons, carved with intricate designs, to stir the melting snow. These spoons weren't just practical, they carried symbolic meaning, often decorated with patterns representing family lineage or local spirits. You smile at the idea of artistry thriving even in the simplest of daily tasks. Historians still argue whether the spoon designs were purely decorative or if they played a role in rituals meant to bless the water and ensure the family's health. This open question hints at the blending of practical life and cultural belief, a common thread throughout Inuit history. The kitchen area of the igloo is modest but ingeniously arranged. Cooking often involves boiling meat over the kulak lamp or roasting it on heated stones placed carefully inside the igloo. The smell of seal or caribou meat cooking is faint but comforting, mingling with the soft glow of the lamp. Interestingly, the way heat circulates inside the igloo means that the cooking area also helps warm the whole structure, making meals a literal source of warmth and comfort. You realize how every element inside the igloo is designed to multitask, creating an environment that supports both physical survival and emotional well-being. As you imagine yourself sitting down for a meal in this snug space, the stories of past generations echo softly around you, stories of resilience, ingenuity, and quiet joy found even in the coldest, most challenging places on Earth. Moving deeper into the flow of daily life, you begin to notice how the igloo's interior is thoughtfully organized for both function and comfort. The Inuit don't just pile their belongings anywhere, instead, there's a quiet system of storage and space management that maximizes the limited area. You observe fur pelts and clothing carefully arranged along the curved walls, each piece folded or hung to dry. Since the igloo's warmth naturally melts a thin layer of snow on the inside, moisture can build up, so drying wet clothes quickly is crucial. You can almost feel the faint, comforting scent of seal and caribou hides mingling with the crisp Arctic air, a smell that seems to embody survival itself. One mainstream fact here is that Inuit clothing was expertly crafted for insulation and water resistance, often made from animal skins sewn with sinew. These garments were so effective that some explorers noted how Inuit travelers could endure temperatures that would leave others frozen stiff. A quirky tidbit surfaces as you watch a child's small parka, intricately decorated with tiny beads and colorful threads. These personal touches weren't just for show, they also helped distinguish family members' belongings and added a bit of cheer to an otherwise stark environment. You imagine how even in the chill of the Arctic, there was room for a splash of personality and style. Historians still argue whether these decorative elements evolved primarily as cultural markers or had deeper spiritual significance, possibly serving as protective charms. It's a gentle mystery wrapped in the soft folds of fur and thread. Your gaze shifts to the igloo's ceiling, where you notice the careful arrangement of small holes and vents. These aren't accidents but purposeful features designed to allow stale air and smoke from the cullet to escape. This subtle ventilation keeps the air inside fresh and breathable, preventing it from becoming stuffy or smoky. Interestingly, some igloos feature a small skylight made of translucent ice blocks or animal skin stretched tightly, letting in soft daylight without letting out precious warmth. It's like the Arctic's version of a cozy window, inviting in a glimpse of the vast white world beyond. You feel a quiet admiration for this blend of practicality and subtle elegance, where every detail is designed with intention, transforming a simple snow shelter into a warm, lived-in home. You settle into the rhythm of the igloo's evening as the Arctic darkness fully envelopes the landscape outside. The glow of the cullet lamp casts a mellow light on the snow walls, turning the inside into a small world of warm hues and soft shadows. You sense how the design of the igloo helps create this cocoon of comfort amid the vast, cold emptiness outside. A fascinating mainstream fact is that igloos are incredibly energy efficient. Their dome shape reduces wind resistance and traps heat exceptionally well, which is why they can stay warm enough for a family, even when temperatures plummet far below freezing outside. The snow blocks themselves act as natural insulators because they contain tiny air pockets. Much like modern foam insulation, one quirky detail emerges as you watch the children play inside, sliding on the slick, icy floor. The Inuit sometimes polish the floor inside the igloo to create a smooth surface perfect for games or simple movement. This ice floor wasn't just for fun, it helped manage water runoff from melting snow and prevented muddy messes, which must have been a welcome feature in such a pristine environment. Historians still argue whether igloos were originally developed solely for practical reasons or if their form was influenced by traditional spiritual ideas about harmony with nature. The curved dome shape resembles other sacred structures in indigenous cultures, suggesting that architecture and belief systems might be linked more than we realize. As the night deepens, you sense the unspoken bonds that hold the family together inside the igloo. Shared warmth, shared stories, and the quiet companionship of living so close in a small space create a profound intimacy. The igloo becomes more than just a shelter, it's a hearth, a sanctuary, and a symbol of community resilience. You might chuckle to yourself imagining the surprise of an explorer stumbling on this marvel of Arctic engineering and cozy domesticity, a warm home made entirely of snow, standing firm against the coldest winds you can imagine. The quiet hum of life inside the igloo gently shifts your attention toward how the Inuit approach cleanliness and hygiene in such a cold, confined space. With no running water and freezing temperatures outside, maintaining personal and household cleanliness requires clever adaptations and steady routines. You imagine the daily rituals of washing, where water is precious and sparing. Instead of baths or showers, the Inuit often used snow rubbed gently over skin to clean themselves, a practice that sounds bizarre but works surprisingly well. The cold snow helped remove dirt and sweat, while the chilly air quickly dried the skin to prevent discomfort. You shiver slightly just imagining it. But realize how effective this method must have been when water is scarce. A mainstream fact to consider: the Inuit highly valued cleanliness, not just for health but as a spiritual practice. Cleanliness was believed to keep evil spirits away, tying daily hygiene directly to well-being and cultural beliefs. One quirky tidbit is that some Inuit groups used a type of natural exfoliant made from crushed shells or sand to gently scrub skin, a prehistoric version of your favorite exfoliating scrub, but probably with more bite. Historians still argue whether these hygiene customs evolved purely from necessity or were deeply intertwined with spiritual and social codes, shaping a unique cultural approach to personal care in extreme environments. Inside the igloo, waste management is another matter. Waste was carefully collected and buried away from the living area to avoid contamination and attract predators. This practice, while simple, was crucial in maintaining a clean and safe home. the compact nature of the igloo also influenced the family's daily movements. Space was shared, and privacy was a luxury. You imagine the gentle negotiation of personal space and the social bond strengthened by this close-quarter living, a far cry from the sprawling houses many are used to today. These practical habits and intimate living conditions paint a picture of resilience and adaptability, where cleanliness and cooperation are as essential to survival as the warmth of the snow walls themselves. The evening settles deeper, and you find yourself drawn to the spiritual and storytelling traditions that help fill the igloo with warmth beyond the physical kind. As the Arctic night stretches long, storytelling becomes a vital way to pass the time, educate the young, and strengthen the community's bond. You imagine a family huddled close around the kuluk lamp, the flickering flame casting dancing shadows on the snow walls, as an elder begins to tell tales of the northern lights, legendary animals, and ancestral heroes. These stories aren't just entertainment, they're oral histories, rich with lessons about survival, respect for nature, and cultural identity. One mainstream fact about Inuit storytelling is that it often includes animals with human traits, teaching moral lessons through fables. For example, the clever raven or the cunning fox features prominently in many tales, acting out struggles between wisdom and folly. A quirky detail reveals itself in the way some stories are accompanied by hand gestures, throat singing, or soft drum beats, adding rhythm and life to the narrative. You can almost hear the soothing hum of the drum and the gentle cadence of voices blending with the crackling lamp. Historians still argue whether the oral traditions are purely a way to preserve knowledge or if they also functioned as a subtle form of social control, guiding behavior through shared cultural values. Either way, these tales knit the community together, much like the tightly packed snow blocks of the igloo. You smile, picturing how these storytelling sessions served as both education and gentle entertainment, a calming ritual perfect for drifting towards sleep in a world so different yet so human. Night deepens, and your attention turns to the ingenious ways the Inuit prepared food within the snug confines of the igloo. Despite the cold outside, meals were a vital part of daily life that required skillful planning and careful preservation methods. You picture the family sharing freshly caught seal meat, dried fish, and perhaps some stored berries or seaweed brought in from the coast. The igloo's interior served as a cozy kitchen, with tools and storage containers neatly arranged, making the preparation and sharing of food a communal event. The mainstream fact is that the Inuit diet was primarily protein and fat-based, perfectly suited to the harsh Arctic environment where carbohydrates were scarce. Seal and whale blubber provided essential calories to keep bodies warm and fueled for long, cold days. One quirky tidbit is the use of fermented foods, which may sound unappetizing but were crucial for preserving nutrients during long winters. Some fermented seal or fish dishes develop strong flavors and aromas, probably making you raise an eyebrow or two. Historians still argue whether these fermented foods were originally discovered by accident or if they were deliberately cultivated, highlighting the Inuits' deep understanding of their environment. Inside the igloo, the kuluk lamp's gentle heat sometimes doubled as a cooking source, its warmth slowly melting frozen meat or heating water for tea. The intimate act of eating together inside this snow sanctuary reinforced social ties and provided comfort against the biting cold outside. You might chuckle imagining modern cooks trying to work with these limited tools and ingredients, discovering that sometimes survival demands creativity far beyond any gourmet recipe. As the night quietly deepens, you notice how the Inuit ingeniously adapted their sleeping arrangements to maximize warmth and comfort inside the snug igloo. Despite the harsh cold outside, inside this snow home, you discover a surprisingly cozy world designed for restful sleep. You settle in alongside the sleeping platforms, raised mounds of packed snow or wood covered with thick layers of fur and skins. These raised beds keep sleepers off the icy floor, insulating them from the biting cold below. You can almost feel the softness of caribou and seal pelts beneath you, a tactile contrast to the crisp Arctic air. One mainstream fact is that the Inuit often slept curled up tightly, minimizing exposed skin to conserve body heat. They sometimes even shared sleeping platforms to benefit from each other's warmth, a practical communal approach to survival. A quirky detail arises when you notice the clever use of face masks or fur hoods designed to cover the nose and cheeks, protecting against the dryness of the cold air. These little touches reveal how every detail mattered when it came to comfort. Historians still argue whether these sleeping arrangements were primarily practical or if they also reflected social customs, such as who slept where within the igloo and how family hierarchies played out in such close quarters. You might smile thinking about how, despite the severe climate, the Inuit managed to create a sleeping environment that invited rest and peace, no small feat when the Arctic wind howls just outside. The stillness inside the igloo invites your thoughts to drift toward the ingenious ventilation system that quietly keeps the air breathable and safe. With a fire burning in a Kuluk lamp and a small enclosed space, fresh air circulation was a matter of life or discomfort. You imagine the delicate balance the Inuit maintained. Small ventilation holes strategically placed near the dome's top allowed stale air and smoke to escape, while fresh air slowly seeped in through the compact snow blocks. This natural airflow was critical to prevent the buildup of carbon monoxide, which could be deadly in such a confined space. A mainstream fact is that the igloo's dome shape helps facilitate this airflow by promoting warm air rising and cooler air sinking, creating a gentle, natural circulation system without any mechanical parts. A quirky tidbit: some igloos featured tiny tunnels that connected to the outside, which acted as windbreakers and prevented cold gusts from directly entering the living space, a clever architectural touch resembling a prehistoric airlock. Historians still argue whether the precise positioning of ventilation holes was based on trial and error passed down orally or if Inuit builders used more formalized knowledge of airflow and safety. As you breathe in the imagined crisp yet fresh air inside the igloo, you appreciate the delicate harmony between shelter and nature that made this cozy home possible, proof that even the coldest places have a heartbeat of warmth and life. Now, your mind drifts to the tools and crafts that brought the igloo to life, how the Inuit carved and shaped their environment with resourcefulness and care. Building and maintaining these homes required skillful hands and intimate knowledge of the materials available. You picture the smooth, hard blocks of compacted snow being cut with ulu knives, curved blades passed down through generations, carefully shaped and fitted like puzzle pieces to form the igloo's dome. The precision is impressive, considering the frigid conditions and the need for stability. A mainstream fact: the snow blocks were often cut from wind-packed snow, dense enough to support weight yet soft enough to carve. A natural building material perfectly adapted to the Arctic climate. A quirky detail emerges with the discovery that some Inuit builders used animal sinew or moss as natural sealants to fill gaps, improving insulation and making the home even cozier, a bit like early caulking, but entirely organic. Historians still argue whether the construction techniques evolved independently in different Inuit communities or spread through cultural exchange, highlighting the ingenuity embedded in these designs. You can almost hear the soft scraping of knives on snow and the satisfied murmurs of builders admiring their work, a quiet testament to human creativity thriving in extreme conditions. The igloo isn't just a home, it's a seasonal hub connecting you to the rhythms of Arctic life. As the months pass, you notice how the Inuits' relationship with their environment shapes the way they use and move between these snow homes. You imagine spring's slow return of sunlight signaling the time to dismantle the igloo or migrate to new hunting grounds. The temporary nature of these structures mirrors the cyclical patterns of life, where mobility is essential for survival. The mainstream fact is that the igloos were often built for short-term stays during hunting trips or seasonal camps, emphasizing their role as portable shelters rather than permanent residences. A quirky tidbit: Some Inuit groups decorated their igloos with carved bone or painted designs on nearby snow walls, adding a touch of personal flair to their temporary abodes. Almost like Arctic graffiti, historians still argue whether the igloo's design influenced other cold region architecture or if it remains uniquely Inuit, reflecting a distinct cultural adaptation. You sense the quiet wisdom in this impermanence, where each igloo stands briefly as a warm oasis before melting back into the landscape, a reminder of life's constant flow and the beauty found in simplicity. As your thoughts settle, you reflect on the lasting legacy of the igloo, how this simple, elegant structure continues to inspire and symbolize resilience, adaptability, and the intimate connection between people and place. You imagine modern architects studying the igloo's geometry and insulation properties, marveling at how a dome of snow can trap warmth so effectively, influencing eco-friendly designs worldwide. A mainstream fact is that the igloo's shape distributes weight evenly, allowing it to withstand harsh Arctic winds and heavy snow loads, a natural feat of engineering that still impresses today. A quirky tidbit is that some artists and filmmakers have recreated igloos using unusual materials like glass or recycled plastics. Blending tradition with innovation in unexpected ways, historians still argue how much the igloo shaped outsiders' perceptions of Inuit culture. Was it romanticized as a symbol of purity and endurance, or was that a narrow view that overlooked the complexity of Inuit life? You take a deep breath, feeling the quiet strength of those snow homes ripple through time. A humble yet profound testament to human creativity in harmony with nature.